it was like a wet blanket. Like he didn't talk about anything. He didn't talk about how he was feeling about anything. He didn't talk about what he wanted to do, where he wanted to go, none of that.
See, that's a big female versus male thing. Like
Sometimes,
women,
yes.
Yeah, women always want to communicate, and sometimes we just can't.
Guys just want to shut down.
I'm not defending him.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
50% of all marriages will end in divorce. And as you get older, that statistic drops. You know, that's a general statistic.
Right.
But if I was sitting down at a blackjack table and I know that I had a 50% chance of losing a bet, you know, you might think twice about making that bet. You probably still make the bet.
Right.
You know, but you put a little bit more thought into it. But, you know, you're young and you're idealistic.
I never dated anybody else. I had dated, he was the only one. I mean, like in high school, we went out as groups. We never, a couple people had boyfriends and girlfriends or whatever.
I was going to say, so this is like a first boyfriend, like first relationship thing?
I would say it was. I mean, you know, there was obviously people before that, but I wouldn't call it a relationship, quote unquote. You know, it was like the first thing. And I ended up, you know, giving him an ultimatum, which was kind of interesting.
Marry me or leave.
Well, yeah, we're going to do this now or I'm moving on. So we see how it ended up. Right. So we met in college. I moved back to Jersey. He was back in Philly in family business. So here's red flag number one.
Well, what was the initial thing that attracted you to him?
I thought he was handsome. He was Jewish, which is something I was looking for. He seemed fun. He, you know, came from what I thought was a decent family. I don't know. Like, how many factors do you really look that far into?
There's no checklist for marriage, you know?
But that's...
No.
I mean, you may be good-looking, Jewish, good family, but really
and my standards now have changed.
But
I know, because you hang out with Mike a lot, so they had to change a lot.
So I'm interested in the Jewish thing because I hear this across the board, not just with Jewish people. I'm interested in why the Jewish thing, because I grew
Because
up,
of the children.
I grew up around a lot of Italians, and Italian parents always wanted their Italian children to marry Italian women or Italian men, and you know, it's never what they expected. You know, and what was the, you said because of the children, because of the
That's
religion?
one thing. Well, right, because in the Jewish religion, the mother's Jewish, so the children are automatically Jewish. But, you know, you want the Jewish customs, depending on how religious you are. I mean, I practice things, but I'm not super religious. But you want to do all the holidays and everything else with both families. So if it's a different religion, then, you know, there's enough problems in marriage as it is. Right, that you can encounter without even having the religious difference. Yeah. So if you have the
Fighting
religious
over
difference,
religion, yeah,
fighting exactly. So you're already starting, you know, with problems. Like, what are we going to do with the kids? Are they going to celebrate everything? There are people that do that. I was not okay with that. I was not okay to have a Christmas tree in my house. I'm Jewish. I grew up Jewish, you know. So I mean, was that the most important thing? No. If he were not Jewish and I fell in love with him, would I have married him? Probably. I don't know how thrilled my parents would have been, but, you know, I may have. I don't know. I mean, now it doesn't matter. I could care less if someone's Jewish or not.
But it's, you know, it's as time moves on, you become a little bit wiser because I've told this before here. My family's in this country because of religion. Mm-hmm. You know, my great-grandfather was Methodist. My great-grandmother was Catholic. And in Ireland, you didn't do that. That was bad. So they immigrated. They got married. And they did their thing. And the old man dies when some of the kids were super, super young. So anybody that was 12 and under, they were switched to Catholic. The ones that were older were still Protestant. And you know that was never, ever discussed at family gatherings. Never. Politics is a different story. God, politics was awful. But religion was never brought up because they knew it was a sore subject. With especially with their parents, their children, it was never a conflict.
Right.
So
it's a conflict in lots of Jewish families.
Yeah.
I mean, some I guess don't care. I mean, everyone I've been surrounded by in my whole family, they cared. I mean, I have a cousin who married someone not Jewish. He's the favorite cousin in the family. So, you know, it was important to me all those years ago. I mean, and I was really more attracted to Jewish guys.
You want to hear a real funny Jewish story?
Sure.
I'm going to tell you a real funny Jewish story. So one of my wife's cousins married a Jewish guy who ends up being a rabbi. Really good friend of mine. Okay, super good friend of mine, great guy. And my wife and I at the time, we weren't very religious. And so we wanted him to marry us. Now, her 88-year-old Italian Catholic, Roman Catholic grandmother thought, she started crying.
Oh,
And this is somebody that's in the family. She started crying. She says, "You're going to be Jewish."
Oh, my God, really?
I
That's
swear.
funny.
I swear to God. And we ended up.
Me singing dreidel, dreidel, dreidel
Yeah,
every day.
I mean, it's not like we're going to be crushing the glass saying "L'chaim." It's, but that's what she thought, and that's the archaic way of thinking
Right.
of the older generation.
Absolutely.
That, but neither here nor there. So that was the first thing.
Is it
that
archaic or is it ignorance? You know what I'm saying? People
I think
don't
it's ignorance, lack of education.
Yeah, exactly. Lack of education. People don't open themselves to other religions. They only think that, hey, I'm Catholic, everybody should be Catholic.
But that generation is very different.
Yeah.
Well,
when it
old
comes
school
to-
Catholics used to think that if you were anything but Catholic, you didn't believe in Jesus.
Yeah,
I'm not.
exactly. Yep.
So
Oh.
I
Well,
can
that's-
definitely
that's
relate to
different.
this, what you're talking about. My ex was Jewish, and I am Catholic.
She still is Jewish, no?
No,
She still is Jewish.
I consider her. Well, I'm not going to comment.
Well,
anymore.
I-
I need to refer to someone I know. I think.
So one of my good friends, I told is a pastor of he's the head of Every Nations Church. He's a Christian pastor who was raised Jewish. Believe it or not, that's Ron Lewis. He was raised Jewish, and he converted and everything. But I told him this story, and this is the truth. My father, I was messing around with my father one day. I said, Jesus was a Jew. And
Jewish carpenter.
And he goes,
That's right.
He goes, "No, he wasn't. He was Christian." I go, "What? What did you just say?" I said, "He's a Jew. What are you talking about?"
That's right.
But anyway, so what else did you find attractive about him? Did he have a certain personality that drew you in, or was it
Yeah,
just
he was funny.
yeah?
I mean, he seemed like a good, wholehearted guy. I mean, I since learned later that's not the case. But listen, it seemed like a good idea at the time is what I kind of always say, because, the first group was getting married, and, I knew I eventually wanted to get married and have children. It was very, very important to me to have children. Like, I knew I'm very maternal. I can tell you that. I'm very maternal. I wanted to have kids, and it seemed like this was the natural progression. So we had been dating for, a couple years in college, and then we were long distance. We figured if we could, I was supposed to move to Philly when we got engaged. Red flag number one. I didn't. Then we got married. I moved to
Did you
Philly.
not move there because, trepidation?
I did not move there because I just didn't feel like it. I was busy having fun with my friends in New York.
Yeah.
And, most of my friends graduated from college and moved into the city. So I was busy, gallivanting with them like any 20-something does.
Right.
And which leads me to, my ex-husband was working every other Saturday. He was in family business. So you would think every other Saturday that he was working or that he wasn't working, that I'd be running to Philly to see him, or he'd be running to me to see me. And I was not running to Philly. And I felt, there were times where I had plans with my friends to go into the city, and it's like, so that was another red flag.
I was gonna say, that's
again,
a red flag
hindsight,
right
red
there.
flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely. So lots of the red flags have emerged since, I've been divorced, but
But you don't realize that when you're going through it.
no, not at all.
No, you got blinders on.
I didn't
because
think there was anything wrong with it. I'm like, look, my friends are gonna be in the city. That's where I want to be.
you think that things are going to, because you're looking for this missing piece. We
Mm-hmm.
all are. We're looking for that missing piece of the puzzle in our lives.
Right.
And you seem to find it, or what you think you found it. You end up getting married. The wedding had to be fun. I've seen wedding crashers. Even when it's bad, it's good.
My wedding was spectacular. I will tell you, it was amazing.
I always like the Jewish wedding with the breaking of the glass, because what it symbolizes, may your marriage last as long as it takes to put the pieces of the glass back together.
Mm-hmm.
Your glass wasn't broken
Right.
enough.
What glass?
What glass? But I've also seen the glass go through people's shoes.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. But so was the food any good?
The food was delicious
See, Jewish weddings, I've been to several of them.
because they were kosher. Mine was not kosher.
Oh, the food is awful.
Matzo
because they were-
balls, gefilte fish.
Right. Well, those foods actually, when it's kosher, it's typically not that great. Mine was kosher style, so we had no shellfish,
Okay.
but it was not kosher.
Yeah, I think I ate challah bread That's all I remember
Right.
eating because the rest of it was
believe it.
like, what
Food
is
was
that?
delicious.
Looks like Alpo or something.
It was at Headquarters Plaza in Morristown.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
very
it
nice.
was very nice.
So then, when the wedding got boring, go watch a movie.
Right, there you go. That's right.
They were bougie.
So you have your children.
Livingston, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
So you had your children. Did you wait to have children? Did you enjoy your marriage a little bit, or did you jump right into having children?
We were married for, I guess, 3. I had everything very scheduled. I knew exactly when I wanted to have kids. I knew how far apart I wanted them, and I got both of those things. So we were, I guess, 3 years we were married. But he was working all the time.
And this is in Philly.
This is in Philly.
Yeah.
I thought that was normal. There's a lot that went on in our marriage that was wrong, again, in hindsight, that I thought was normal and I thought was right.
Give me an example.
He was working every weekend.
Okay. Was that indicative of something, or was he a workaholic?
I was going to say, was he actually working or just tell you he was working?
Well, he was in the family business and he didn't want to turn his father down. He was working with his father and he didn't want to say, like, no, he couldn't. You know, he was just doing that thinking he's building a future for us. So that was that. There was, I don't remember, I think the first year I would say I enjoyed. And after that, I don't remember. Like, I don't remember liking it, hating it, being so happy with him, being miserable. I don't remember any of it.
Well, what was one thing that really got under your skin?
His third chin.
Like, it's I can't even.
I'm trying so hard not to say anything in reference to this subject. I'm really serious. I'm really.
That picture. Drew, you got to take that picture down.
No, just
I
leave
love
there.
it when he's just coming in from the side.
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, Drew, could he move? Like, could you put him in different spots?
What was one thing that really, like, the first thing that
hurricane one.
really got under your
He
skin?
was a horrible communicator. It was like a wet blanket. Like, he didn't talk about anything. He didn't talk about how he was feeling about anything. He didn't talk about what he wanted to do, where he wanted to go, none of that.
See, that's a big female versus male thing. Like,
Sometimes,
women,
yes.
Yeah, women always want to communicate, and sometimes we just can't.
Guys just want to shut down.
I'm not defending him.
Listen,
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, sometimes I don't want to
I
talk
don't want
about stuff.
confrontation.
How
I just want to, like, disappear sometimes.
It's not the confrontation. I'm talking about having, like, a normal conversation. Like,
Agree.
you know what? Where do you want to go for dinner this weekend? I don't know. Like, this is your town. You
You
figure
just
it
picked out the worst conversation to have with your wife ever. Where do you want to go eat? I don't care. Wherever you want to go. Well, how about tacos? No, I don't want that.
Listen, if the 5 of us were going to go out to grab something to eat tonight, we'd sit here for 20 minutes and say, where do you want to go?
Nah, we go to the Grand Saloon, real simple. Grand Saloon, 940 Van Houten Avenue,
I'm
Clifton.
starving.
Yeah. Starving?
Stop.
Yeah.
No R in that.
I'm starving.
You know,
I was talking
Let's
to
get
Kevin.
back-
I
let's
wasn't
get
talking
back
to you. I was
to
talking to Kevin.
I can multitask.
So bad communicator.
He was a horrible communicator, correct?
And was there ever any infidelity or any abuse or anything like that?
There was not. I was accused of infidelity, and he went to great lengths to try to prove that, and he failed.
Okay.
So
Well, you sounds like with the scheduling you had, you held that institution of marriage very sacred.
I did. I mean, I wanted to be married. And again, I realized, like, almost all of it, I realized after the fact. And I'm like, oh my God, remember that? Like, when he was doing this or he was doing that, I'm like, why didn't I see it? And I think it was probably because I didn't want to see it.
No,
That
We
was
didn't
what I
want to
think.
believe it.
were you working
Well,
through
yeah.
your whole marriage?
I was not. So I worked for a little bit in the beginning when we were married, and then we bought a house, which is where we had both of our children. I was working a little bit here and there, and then when I had the kids, I was not working. I was a stay-at-home mom.
I think a mother should stay at home and raise their kids anyway. Yeah, I don't.
Listen, you know what? It's the hardest job I ever had.
Yeah,
I'll be
without a doubt.
honest with you.
Why don't you just say if your wife has a broken leg, the sandwich maker's broken? God, man, that is.
No, I'm just saying, no, a stay-at-home mom. I would rather have nobody raise my kids but their mother.
Well,
I don't
that's the thing.
I mean,
No, I
I
don't-
kind of agree with that. When my younger went to preschool, when he went to elementary school, I wanted to go back to work. I was like, let me just do something part-time. I felt, if I want to buy something for myself, I shouldn't feel guilty. Which I did sometimes. Like, if I wanted to buy something, I'm like, you know what? I'm not contributing. Oh, no, you stay home and take care of the kids.
Well, that was the choice with my wife and I. Like when we decided to have children, a discussion was had. It's okay. Here's how because some mothers don't want to stay home with their kids. Some mothers,
Agreed.
they would rather go work. And I told her, I said, okay, so if you want to go work and this is what you need, I'll make it work. We'll make it work with the kids as far as daycare or whatever it is. But ultimately, we sat down and looked at the numbers. Her salary would be going to pay for the kids' daycare.
All day, yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yep.
So it's a wash. So what's the point?
And somebody else is raising your kids.
Right.
So I broke my ass so she could raise the kids until they were old enough to go to school. And then she started to get back to it.
I mean, if anything, if they wanted to work, it's peace of mind for them to get them out of the house, you know?
Right.
Because, I mean, how many times did you go to work and you go home and your kids are there and your wife says, I've been home with the kids all day.
Here,
They're
you
yours."
take them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because they needed a break.
Right.
And it is
That's true.
hard. That is a hard job.
It's a very hard job.
Yeah, without a
It
doubt.
is. But it was the best job I ever had. I'll tell you that. I don't have one regret for 1 second about having my kids staying home.
I don't like those messy diapers. I'm done with them. Oh, got it.
I don't know. They didn't. I guess because maybe when you're a mother, it doesn't bother you. I,
was,
don't know.
I was the first one to change both of my kids' diapers.
So was I, and I
So was
hated.
I didn't mind it at all.
I didn't do too many
what
the poopy diapers.
No,
Not that I was into the
I mean,
shit, but
I'd still take like the
know,
chocolate.
I felt like,
I'd still
listen,
take the chocolate pudding. And go look
that's
what
one of
happened.
those things where everybody has this stereotypical thing that men don't want to do that. You know, I didn't. I dove right in. You know,
Head first.
well, not so much that, but
How do you keep your hair back?
yeah, I know it's like this thing.
So when did it start? When did you start to see it going really downhill? How old were the kids?
So we separated when they were 9 and 12.
Wow.
Tough age.
Living separately, or in the same house.
No, we were living in the same house. I'll be completely honest. He thought I was cheating on him. Tried to prove it in lots of different ways. And because in Pennsylvania, I don't know if it's the same in New Jersey. So I represented myself in my own divorce.
It's amazing.
In Pennsylvania, yeah, it was a lot.
Pro se.
Pro se,
No,
that's
I
right.
truly understand.
Yeah, it's a lot. So we've talked about this like a lot before. I'll be like, oh, you're not going to believe, here's something that happened to me.
Talk to a friend of mine.
What's that?
You talked to a friend of mine.
I did talk to your friend, right? That's right. Sorry, my bad.
Friend.
Let me
That's
guess, he
right.
was from Hoboken.
That's right. You know what? He did security at our building. That's funny. He looked just like you. So in Pennsylvania, so he tried. If you get, he wouldn't have had to pay me as much in alimony or spousal support. It starts at. He wouldn't have had to pay me as much if he could prove adultery.
Yeah, adultery.
And what made him think that you were an adulterer?
Because I was doing things that were inappropriate.
Okay.
I did not cheat on him. I did not do what he told people I was doing. I mean, I don't know how blatant you want me to get.
You can get as much as you feel comfortable with. Let's put it that way.
All right. So he told people, everybody, all of our friends, including my parents, that I was giving guys blowjobs in cars. And that I was sleeping with them in cars and I was just like meeting them randomly and doing that.
Should have
Was
told
that
no.
was that
hotel.
just for money? Was that his objective?
He was doing that because he's a narcissist and a certifiable narcissist. I know a lot of people throw that term out like all the time. I actually did a lot of research on it and I've spoken to people about it. And there's 12 characteristics of a narcissist. He has 9 with a possible 10. So that's enough for me.
Did he have any?
He's the victim. That's what it was all about.
Always.
He was trying to prove to everybody that he was the victim and I was awful and I was,
The woe is me syndrome. The woe is me.
Well,
Look,
he's
look.
the king of the woe is me syndrome.
Believe
That's
me,
right.
I went through it.
Did he have any trauma as a child?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Because a majority, it happens more frequently than not. Narcissism comes from trauma. And again, I'm not excusing his behavior whatsoever, but narcissism usually comes from trauma because it's a defense mechanism.
Right.
Where that's how you have to make the world around you make sense by relating everything to you. Mm-hmm. Like,
And that you're always the victim.
no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Mike, take care of him.
Just don't poke the bear, please.
It's just going to keep poking.
I'm gonna wind up in court on like Friday or something.
No, you're not, Mike. Stop.
No, we wouldn't allow it. We wouldn't allow it. You're the color commentary.
No, you know what though? I have to like interject here. I really think it's fantastic that you are speaking about it, and I know a lot of people we're kind of talking in, you know, code here, but I pretty much, you know, I went through a lot of similar stuff that Marcy went through, and mine is so impactful. You know, I actually hesitate, or not fear, but speaking about what I want to speak about. So
you're gun shy.
Like serious, I really am. You know, it's a very, very rough situation, and
You're also
you know,
in a very different stage than I'm in.
True,
You know what
true.
I'm saying?
And,
I mean, I've gone through all this.
You know,
already.
and a lot of times, like even when I do come on here,
you hold back.
I hold back on so much, and that's so impactful in my life. You know,
which
that
is a shame
I can't,
that you
right.
have to do that.
It's anything I say or do, or it's incredible. You know,
well, you have to be careful. You're especially in a divorce setting or a separation setting, that you don't overstep your bounds, because you don't want to interject something that's going to give fuel to the other party.
And not to take away from, you know, what you went through, but what I went through and my story in regards to this is, you know, it could be 2 or 3 shows, and I'm not even using the Hoboken stretch. Like it's financially crippling, it's emotionally crippling,
it's financially crippling.
And when I tell you
that part,
when it comes to, you know, the courts and lawyers, and it's there's so much.
I don't know how it is in Pennsylvania, but I do know in New Jersey it's very slated against the men. It really is.
195%. And another thing,
it's slated against the men.
Against
yes,
the men.
yes,
So
it
in
is.
Pennsylvania, it's more equal.
Divorce laws in New Jersey are women's laws.
And
Domestic
this
violence
is,
laws
right.
are women's laws, and
this is these things were specifically told to me by, you know, lawyers and so forth. And the reason why I never really speak or never really come out is the love of my kids.
But you know what
I
the
love them more than myself.
You know what the sad part is? It muddies the water between right and wrong. You know, if the man is wrong in the divorce, okay, it should be heavier. You know, they should hammer the man a little bit. If the woman is wrong in divorce, you know, it's right or wrong. It's not what gender you are.
Well, usually both are wrong.
In some respect.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
Both people have done stuff wrong. I mean, I admit it. I did stuff that was wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? I did stuff that, you know, probably could have impacted me worse than it did, but I was able to.
Was that the car thing you were talking about before?
But you're always fearful of your kids hearing that damaging language.
Well, that's the whole thing. And my ex-husband told my kids a lot of things that he shouldn't have.
Well, that's their weapons. They weaponize kids.
Yes, correct.
And that's one thing I never did.
Which is the one. No, you didn't, and thank God for that.
I never.
That's
It would
narcissistic.
never come out of my mouth.
Thank you. Exactly. That's exactly right.
You know, though, when you're fighting a battle, though, if you've ever been in a real street fight, you know,
I can say I have not.
I have been in plenty of street fights.
Jewish girl from Livingston.
Thank
They don't
you.
fight.
Not we
I'll
fight with our
be-
mouths, not with our bodies.
I'll let something out on this show. When I'm in a street fight, I'm a ball grabber.
Okay.
I'll grab somebody's balls and I'll hold on to them as tight as I can. All right, with my teeth if I have to.
Well, you do
Because
what you have to do.
I fight-
I'll unleash on people.
I'll fight dirty.
Oh, boy.
And a lot of it, and I'm relating this, a lot of it goes towards divorce.
Right.
Two people
true.
who are very hurt, who are just their lives are scrambled around. They're hurricane themselves, and they're doing anything they can to survive, to win. And for that,
It's not even about that. And what we discussed before, you know, there's 2 things that, you know, at this point in my life, you know, there's 2 things. I was just involved in some other thing, dealing with courts and my kid, whatever it was. And there's one thing I said, you know, this is all my fault. It really is. I picked her.
see,
I
No.
Mike.
See,
No,
that's
listen.
the thing. That's the thing that gets me about divorce, though.
Mike,
these are two.
please.
These are two
No,
people.
you know how I am. I'm honest. I'm open. Like
These are 2 people who loved each other enough at one point
That you
to
picked
get
each
married.
other.
Listen. That's another show. Like these are things.
Like you
I
picked
get
each
your point.
other. How could
But
you
that-
think anything other than that?
That's the
She
collateral
could have
damage.
said no.
I cut my cast off that day. That could have been totally different. So that was
that's collateral. So that's the collateral
could've-
damage of divorce.